Hi, everyone. Welcome to Creators and Coffee. I'm your host, Erica from Autofluencer, and joining me today is Quentin. You might know him from social media as 99 Slowbra. And Quentin, hi.
Hey, hey, good to
Welcome,
see your face.
welcome. Yeah, great to have you on finally. I think we've known each other for what, a year and a half now? A little bit, somewhere in there.
Probably longer at this point, but who's counting?
Who's counting? Wanted to have you on to kind of talk as we're going into the holidays. This episode is all about being a social media content creator and how that can really play with your head, right? It can be really hard. But before we get to some of that, tell us a little bit about how you got into this world, how you got into content creation, so people can get to know you a little better.
2016, I bought my Cobra Mustang. I'd always wanted. I saw a buddy of mine had it for a while. It finally came up for sale and we made a deal. And your first cool, fancy car, you take a lot of pictures of it and, so you start posting it on your Instagram and your Facebook. And a picture of me gets X amount of likes and a picture of my car gets half as many likes. And then eventually it's, okay, guys, do you want me to just make a page for my car? I made a poll and pretty much everyone said, "Yeah, make a page for your car." So I did, and then that was 99 Slowbra, and then that was 8-ish years ago probably. And so I started, doing photo shoots with photographer friends of mine, and then suddenly I started going to events in 2018, 19-ish. They kind of just expanded from there, and suddenly now I work with big brands like Ford and, parts distributors, and I get to go to SEMA, and that's how we met, and PRI, and all the big Mustang shows, and it's a fast life, it's a fun life, and, it's been amazing, and I'm just really humbled to be some guy from small town Kansas to be able to go travel the world doing cool stuff with friends, so
Yeah. Well, and I mean, certainly I think a lot of people from the outside will look at it and be like, what a dream, right? If you're passionate about cars or passionate about anything, to be able to do more of that, to be appreciated, to be recognized for it. I see your post sometimes like somebody recognized me or they recognize my car, and they're like, oh, I follow you. But there's a darker side to it, right? Which I think a lot of people, there's a lot of talk about social media and kind of the impacts it have. But when it's a lot of what you do, right, it can be hard. So speak a little bit about, you had a pretty powerful post when we were actually at SEMA. You weren't there this year. And talk a little bit about what you've recently gone through, because I think a lot of people watching this have gone through the same thing. And I think it's just helpful to hear.
well, yeah, I mean, life and God and however you believe, I do think will set you on the path you're supposed to be on if you don't get yourself there. And a lot of times I've learned that if you're on the wrong path and you get set straight, it's not comfortable.
Yeah.
It's a big slap. And so that's pretty much what happened to me. I'll spare some details, but long story short, life set me on the path that I'm supposed to be on. Not that content creation and everything wasn't the path, it was consuming me too much. So, all these amazing relationships I've made with people over the years, friends, I call them family now at this point. You see them once, twice, 3, 4 times a year. So they're as much family to me as some of my blood. Basically, just had to miss a couple events towards the end of this year. SEMA, one of the best events of the year, where I see the most people, especially outside of the Mustang community and Ford community, because it's everybody. So I was really sad to miss that. But the silver lining, and I'm unfortunately going to miss PRI as well. I'm missing PRI. So the silver lining for that, though, is I have a lot more time back. I'm taking a step back. I almost exactly a month off from posting unintentionally, like timing wise. It was just when I felt right, I stepped back in a little bit. And now I'm posting when I feel comfortable to post. I was a little bit stuck in the rat race like we all are, right? You got to make your post every day. You have to
Mhm.
put a bunch of time into your edit. You have to, get who you're collaborating with, and you gotta, if you're doing it with a sponsor or another brand, you gotta talk back and forth with them and make sure it's approved with them, and it becomes to be a lot, right? You know it just as well as everyone. It can be it's more than a full-time job because you're laying in bed at 2:37 a.m. and someone messages you, and what are you gonna do? Let it go? No, you're gonna open that message and you're gonna
Yeah.
reply. It's not like a regular 9 to 5 where as soon as you clock out at 5 PM, you don't worry about that job till you get in the next morning. That job is, always in your hand, right? Just trying to go out a bit healthier now, actually a lot healthier now where it doesn't feel like a job, it feels back to more a couple of years ago to where I was just excited to have the opportunity to where it kinda shifted into the last couple of years, like, a need, it was an addiction, literally an addiction of you gotta make that post, and so, I still make the posts, I'm still interacting with people, just I pick up Instagram and, TikTok and whatever when I feel that I have the time to do it, not all day, every day, and something that's really helped me do that is limit the notifications and how I receive the notifications.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, yeah, what are some of the tips on things? Because 'Cause I'm guessing a lot of people are feeling this, right? Especially the holidays are a busy time. They can be fraught with emotions. You can have family things, you can have feel lonely, you can feel, so many things. And I feel like the holidays can exacerbate so much. So what are some tips you have for people to try to find a healthy balance, as we go into the holidays or as they're thinking of 2026 and coming up with a new, more balanced approach?
I'm just thinking you just said with the holidays, you're making me think back to past years and I'd be sitting at the Thanksgiving table, like, replying to DMs,
Mhm.
and that not necessarily, like, during the dinner, I'm respectful enough for that, but, once dinner's kinda concluded and people are having their side conversations and maybe I'm not included in the side conversation, okay, time to check my DMs, time to check my comments, time to all that, and that's just looking back on it, it's gross, it's sad. You gotta find a healthier balance, and, I try to reply to everyone, so it's tough, my social media, manager has a really tough job, right? And, the sad part is, I've known all these tips and tricks for years, I just didn't employ them, what's
We
the
all
healthy way?
do.
Yeah, we're all just fooling ourselves, right? We're all just saying it's not an unhealthy balance, right? Probably the biggest one I'd say for me is going into Instagram notification settings and trimming where making yourself like, "Okay, I don't need to know when Joe posted. I don't need to know when Erica posted." I'm sorry.
That's okay. I don't take it personal.
I'll just hop on, Instagram, and if, "Hey, you know what? I haven't seen from them in a little bit." Go to their page, creep them for a little bit. What did they and then interact, and, "I'm sorry, it's a week or 2 or 3 since your posts, but hey, I'm still here. I saw it. I just on a healthier timeline for me other than every single time I pick up my phone, I go and scroll. So just no less phone pickups, I guess, is something too. I know with phones now you can track how many pickups you have, how many times you open the app, how many minutes you're in the app. Those are all things that if you really have a struggle breaking the chains, which wasn't too hard for me, surprisingly, like is once I took some time off, like, the stress loosened. It wasn't hard for me to slow down, and then I almost feel like I slowed down too much. Stepping back in, it's just been I haven't found an exact cadence yet, and I don't know that I will because that's not how I've been operating recently. I'm more of, like, whatever feels right is
Yeah.
right. It's gonna be a different balance for everybody, but I was doing way too much, and I would just say go on your notifications, and the less times a day you pick up your phone, the less time you're gonna find yourself scrolling or interacting on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and whatnot, so whatever works for you.
Yeah. Are you an iPhone or an Android?
iPhone, yeah.
Okay. I think iPhone might have it. Android has what's called focus mode, and on the weekends, I should probably turn on during the week, but I have it set where all my social media apps are blocked, and to get into it, I have to say, "Okay." So it's like this extra step, a little bit kinda like the pickup thing, but it's this extra step where I'm like, "Ugh, do I really need to get into this app right now?" Where it's not as fluid, whereas I notice sometimes during the week without me even noticing, I'm, like, literally, like, making coffee and somehow I'm looking at Facebook already, and I'm like, how did I even get into I don't remember opening this app. Like, how did this happen? And so I have found that putting on focus mode will stop me. The downside, I think why I turn it off during the week is sometimes I'll have to make a social post for something and I can't do that. And because you only get 5 minutes and it just shuts down at 5 minutes. It doesn't warn. And there's been so many times I've been in the midst of a social post and it shuts down. I'm like, no. And depending
Yep,
on the
quicker
social
than
check,
that.
sometimes they save it and sometimes they don't. But that is the worst feeling, and I still don't learn that lesson. So I think that's why I have it off during the week. But it is to your point because you'll notice since you have to hit that okay. I'm like, wow, why did I even, in that moment try to even look at the app? So I think that's a great tip though, is really recognizing how much you're picking it up. And I think it's true too, once you take a break, you start to become more aware, like if you've ever left your phone at home
Yeah.
and then you notice how many times you're like going, "Oh,
Oh,
wait, I don't have my
oh,
phone." Yeah.
where's
Yeah.
I don't know. Where is it?
Yeah. Like anytime you stand still for like a minute, like I'll be in an elevator going 2 floors and I find myself reaching for my phone. I'm like, "I can't
Gotta check my
stand
bus.
here." I know. I was like, "I can't stand here for 2 minutes and not like have to get my phone out." It is to your you made the comment. It is very much an addiction. The habit of just reaching for it is such a step. So now going into the holidays, we're going into, 2026. Are you setting any kind of new resolutions or ways you're thinking about kind of your whole content creation and have you read any like have there been any articles or things you've read or even people you follow that have helped you kind of wrap your head around tips or tricks or kind of a mindset around this?
So back in college, I was obsessed with like time optimization, right? I was obsessed with figuring out the ways to get the most out of the day you could, you know? I don't know if you looked into Rob Dyrdek and how he structures his days, but it's very, very obsessive. Too far in my opinion, but if you want to
What
be a success,
generation are you again?
I just turned 30 a couple weeks ago, actually.
So you're
So,
millennial. Tail
sure.
end of millennial? I think you're tail end of millennial, Gen Z.
Sure,
So
yeah.
I always used to joke that millennials I just miss millennials, and I joke, I was like, "I identify as millennial." I miss it by 1 year, and I remember being in the workforce when all the millennials were starting to hit, and of course, every older generation is so mean to the younger, like, "Oh, they're so entitled." Like, every generation thinks the generation below them is entitled, but I always noticed, I was like, "Damn, millennials are efficient." Like, always efficient, always looking for a faster way to do it, and also had a better, in some cases, work-life balance than, maybe the generation before. Maybe we had been in work for longer though too, so we became addicted. Maybe when you're right out of college, you're, like, less addicted to working or identify with it less, and then as you get older, maybe that happens, but I always noticed that millennials and I think it was, like, this whole optimization thing was really hitting, so I'm not surprised that you fell into to the I think a lot of people do, right? Optimizing every minute of the day. Alright, sorry, I cut you off. So you're saying it was probably a little too obsessive.
You're fine. Yeah, Rob Dyrdek's method is a little too much, but there's definitely things to take away from it. Someone else, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Vin Giggs.
Uh-uh.
Okay, Vin Giggs, great guy. He's a buddy of mine out in Charlotte, North Carolina. He's had every supercar you can dream of. He just got the GTD when it came out. I think it was October, September,
Yeah.
October, and he took it across America. I think he did
Yeah.
8,000 miles in a brand new GTD.
Wow.
Who's doing that? He's had a struggle with his social media the last couple of years, and he's talked about it a lot on his page. And he said he got a separate phone specifically that only is on Wi-Fi, and it's in a specific area of his house. And if he is not in that area of his house with this phone, he's not on social media. So he has to go
Wow.
to a specific room to be on social media. I'm like, wow, that's next level. That's really strong. So that's a hardcore tip. But hey, if you're really struggling and you need some help, maybe do something like that. Use an old phone of yours and log into your accounts on there. And that's the only way you can do it on Wi Fi or something. But anyway, for me personally, I need to make a New Year's resolution. It's been so long since I've done that. And I need to make a plan and stick to it. So that's going to be something I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but my goal is just to be healthy, feel good about the time I'm spending online, be intentional with it, be more present with the people physically in my life, the people who actually come to my house and talk to me in person, I see every day. Those are the people that you really need to keep your relationship very strong and uptight with, the people you love the most, because 'cause they're there for you physically. I love you, Erica, but I see
Yeah.
you once or twice a year, you know? It's just a
Yeah.
different kind of relationship, so
Yeah. Yeah. I think that those are such great tips. I mean, I think you kinda have your New Year's resolution right there. So,
you're right.
we'll send you the transcript and you can print it out. Any kinda last words of wisdom for creators that are maybe going through what you just went through or starting to feel like they're hitting it? Any kinda last little nugget for them?
Okay, I mean, it's an obvious one, right? Schedule your time. Schedule 2-hour block of a day, make your posts for an entire week or 2 if you can get ahead that far, and then just schedule them and, then interact as they post. That saves you a bunch of time and really just, gosh, take advantage of whatever opportunities are in front of you to optimize. Like I said, whatever routes that is, the apps make it so much easier than ever. Get an editor if you're comfortable doing so. Get an editor. I've leaned into that a little bit with YouTube, which I haven't been posting just yet, but it's coming. Lifesaver, absolute lifesaver. So
Yeah, awesome. Well, people can message Quentin for tips on who his editor is and how he found one. Well, we can do that in another
no,
episode. So,
no, no, no.
yeah.
He's already busy.
Oh, all right. Well, Quentin, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you later.
Thanks. See ya.
Bye.